As we have members pick the pears, we need to make sure that they pick pulling up, and so the pears should just come off the tree. They shouldn't be pulling. If they see branches moving, then that's too much pull on the pear. The pear should be lifted off the tree. When the decision of which pears to take off is based on this ring, which Brother Nielsen has put together for all of us. We are able to take this, and if the pear fits through this ring, it's too small. Leave it on the tree, let it continue to mature. It can be utilized later. Also, pears that we don't want are ones that have too deep grooves on them that will not be peeled by the automatic peeler that the church has at our pairing at our canneries. So we want to make sure that the pears that go into the bins are good pears. If a pear drops, we're not to allow people to pick them up. Those can be gleaned later on. They're not necessarily wasted, but they can be gleaned, and by people who want to do who want to can their own peaches or pears at home. When they put the pears into the bin, we want to make sure that they put them in and that they lower them very carefully and gently. John Nielsen, Brother Nielsen, makes the point that the pears are to be treated like eggs. So if you imagine an egg being dropped into their little bucket that we have as we pick the pears, and that as we lay those eggs on top of each other, we're going to be very careful with them. Also, when we put them in here, imagine dumping a bucket full of eggs. You'd be very careful, and you'd slowly lift those up so the eggs don't roll too much. We have to remember that these pears are going to be sitting in storage for a while. Some of them won't be used for months. And the longer they sit, after they've been bruised, those bruises really come to the surface. So we want to have pears that can last long enough to be canned successfully and not bruise. And that has to be expressed to the people who are picking the pears. Remember that to be proactive is better. Especially as they begin to pick their pears, walk amongst the people that are picking and really help them and watch them and train them gently and kindly. Remember that some of them don't necessarily want to hear that they're doing a poor job. Sprinkle in a lot of positives as you're talking with them about how they can get it done. Maybe even grabbing someone within the group who's doing a really good job and point out, hey guys, take a look for a second how this person's picking the fruit, and have somebody maybe demonstrate how they're pouring the bucket out into the bin as well is a nice touch. Having them show each other can be useful in the training process. As we have these bins set up, you will have to decide what bin to pick into. Make sure that your group understands clearly that they're not supposed to put into a bin that's empty, okay? If we have bins that are only half filled, those bins are very difficult to move within the orchard. And at the end of the day, we pay for storage of all bins. A bin that's only filled halfway, we can't put into storage because it would cost extra money. So we want the bins to be filled. If a bin isn't filled and people have to go and add to bins, that makes it very difficult. It's more labor management. We don't want to do that. So as we decide which bin we're going to fill to, we have to be thinking we want to pick halfway into the bin. We want to pick till it's halfway full. So half the trees should be ahead of it and half the trees should be behind that, so that we're picking both ways into the bin. If the bin is too far down, everyone moves and takes their pears all the way down and it fills way down there. If it's too close, then it's the opposite problem. As we work away from the bin, everyone has to carry them back. So we want the bin to be about halfway between where we think we'll be picking into to fill the whole thing. Okay? Now, as we look at these bins as well, this bin is not properly placed. It's turned sideways. We should always see, I'll turn this for you. Are you showing this, Rachel? Good. As we pick into the bin, we should see the handle. The handle should always be facing the row. If it's the other way, the bin will be broken when it's picked up by the forklift, okay? This it's the handles that are the key to this, okay? The forklift can come in here and there's no bottom level that it's going to break. On the other side, the bin, this does have a bottom level. Can you see that, Rachel?
Yeah.
The bottom level right here. That will be broken when the forklift comes to pick it up. So just remember, keep the bin facing this way, because I can tell you, it's really hard to move this thing when it's full of pears. That's it's more than a one-man job, that's for sure. All right. So, the level of the bin. We want the bins. Yeah, that's perfect, Rachel. We want the bins to be not overfilled. Okay. The bins do stack on top of one another, and there can be a little bit of that, because unlike the old bins that were plastic, they stacked right flat on top. And that was an issue because they stacked on top, anything that was overfilled would get squished, and you get pear juice instead of pears. So we want to have the new bins don't stack directly on top, and we have a little more leeway, but we really want them basically level, okay? We don't want ones that are too below that level either. Now, as you're filling a bin, remember that if you have ladder pickers that are going to be following, that are working with your crew, make sure and leave the bin a little bit less than totally full, so that the ladder pickers can pick into it as well. One of the big issues that I get as I work with the row coordinators is that the ladder pickers complain because they're trying to pick into bins, but they're already filled. So they have to go get up on the ladder, use extra energy to pick those pears at the top, and then walk all the way down, and sometimes between rows, in order to get to a bin that they can fill into. So we don't want to make them walk very much. So we're watching carefully as the bin is filling and leaving enough so that the ladder pickers can fill up the rest of the way. And we're monitoring that. Now, another thing that we're looking for is making sure that there aren't too many leaves within the bins, that they're filling them properly and gently. The way that we like to have the bins filled is have the workers come and fill from the corners, okay? Each of the corners gets filled first, and then the fruit begins to fill in the middle here. But we tend to like to start from the corners. A lot of times I see the row coordinators doing a lot of movement of pears, trying to move back and forth. We don't want to roll them as we move pears, because once again that could bruise them. So what we want to do is go ahead and if we do need to adjust the pears, lift them up and move them rather than just pushing them and rolling them into place. That's better. We also want to tell the people that are picking that they want to be careful as they put their pears in the buckets, that they don't pierce the pears with with the stem. So that's another thing to think about. All right, let's stop.